something really needs to give. You can no longer be perfect at everything. You need to pick out what is important to you and focus on those moments.
When I first had children, I think I went through what so many mothers go through, which is the sense of your life completely changes and you have to completely change your expectations around your time and how your time is spent. And for a long time, I tried to figure out the formula. Okay, well, how many hours do I spend on work? How many hours do I spend with my kids, working out, cooking dinner? Like, I wanted to schedule everything so I could find the right answer and then just stick to that. And unfortunately, I realized pretty quickly that that's impossible.
Having a career and being a mother is a real challenge. And after 30 years of working, I can tell you the guilt never goes away. But you learn to manage that. And I think by making sure that you take time for your family, at the same time having them understand your career goals and what you're trying to achieve is really important.
Having a mentor is really important, and it's certainly not something to be taken lightly. The advice that I would give young females, or actually anyone as they advance in their career, is to be deliberate about mentor-mentee relationships. So don't just assume that you have that relationship with someone you consider a mentor. Vocalize it and sort of formalize it, just in making sure that your mentor understands that you're using them as a mentor.
The advice I always give to women around mentoring is to be very purposeful in terms of what they want to get out of that mentoring relationship. So if there's a woman that they would like to, or a man that they would like to establish a relationship with, really think about why that is. Is there an aspect to that person's career trajectory, or their role, or their leadership style, or their specific technical knowledge? What is it about the individual you'd like a mentoring relationship with that is going to benefit you as the mentee? And then establish a relationship on that grounding, making sure that the mentor understands why it is you're seeking them out to be a mentor.
Men and women can 100% be great mentors to one another. I actually think that this is really needed to be able to achieve gender equality. I think men need to be included in the conversation and to be able to help advocate for women, and the other way around. And that way you get a diverse opinion and advice and advocacy from both female and male counterparts.
I think the worst advice you can ever give a female is that they should act more like a male. I actually fundamentally believe women should act like women. I think we have phenomenal qualities. I think that we bring a lot to the table in terms of our strengths. I think they are different than men's strengths, but I actually believe that that is something that's very much needed in the boardroom. And so for me, it's just act like yourself, be yourself, bring your true self, your authentic self to work, and don't try and be anybody else, because it's really important. I think for your success, in order to really, truly, you can't be somebody else. You have to be yourself if you want to succeed.
I would tell my younger self, don't accept I can't, because you can absolutely do this.
My advice for my younger self would be forgiveness, not permission. And so I look back and I would say, be bold, put your hand up, don't sit on the sidelines waiting for someone to come and find you. Don't be worried about making mistakes. We all do, but take hold of your career and go out and get it. Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
I would tell myself to take more risks. And I do think that, through my own sort of personal experience and, as I kind of look back at my career, I really believe that, women tend to wait till they know like 90% of a role before they apply for it, where I do think that men will go in, knowing maybe 50% of that role. And I think that definitely I encourage people to take risks and really take chances and and do things that they feel uncomfortable doing. And I do that even today as I try different things and do things that I don't necessarily feel totally comfortable with, but I push myself, and I think that allows you to really grow and develop.
Just kind of relax, enjoy it, and do your job, obviously, but take the time to actually truly enjoy it. And I'll call it smell the roses along the way versus just, and a lot of women do this. We're like, whoom, very, very focused and kind of miss what's going on around us.
I always try to lift up female leaders in the organization by, one, celebrating their successes and celebrating their wins. Number two is really encouraging them to network with other women in the industry themselves. So if I have an opportunity to bring them along, I always invite them along with me. And lastly, it's really about giving them the opportunity to be highlighted as well. I think, for example, Dress for Success, you guys reached out to me and gave me the opportunity to talk about my journey and my experience, and I'm really grateful for that. And that is what I'd like to continue to pass on to fellow female leaders in my company.
The C-suite was not always my goal in my career. Throughout my career, there was many times that I thought about making the decision to pull back, to stay home with my family. And then I found a way to be able to manage both. And I think it's really important that you understand throughout your life, you go through different times when you feel differently about your career. And that's not to say that you can't start and stop. It is really important that females especially understand that taking time off to be with your family is okay.
Nobody's going to take as much of an interest in your career as you do and as you should. You really need to own your career and all the decisions that you make along the way.
Piece of advice that I always share, whether it's a new team member or somebody who's coming to talk to me about their career progression or maybe in a year-end career review, which is to always have impact. So no matter what role you're in, whether you have a leadership title like capital L, a small L, it doesn't matter. If you really focus on how can you have impact, how can you leave that role better than you found it, how can you leave the project better than you found it, how can you help your team improve and be more effective together, by always focusing on the impact you're having in every initiative, project, or role, you will grow as an individual, and you will be noticed and identified as a leader who's ready for advancement.
I found that inspiration can come from anywhere, and if I stay open to all the women that I'm interacting with in whatever context, that I'm having these incredible moments and experiences with so many of them. And it might be somebody that I'm interacting with in a store, I'm purchasing something. It might be somebody that I meet on the bus. It might be another executive at work, but staying open to what they're bringing and their perspective, and really taking the time to listen and just have a conversation with people. It's incredible how many really special moments and insights come from just creating a moment of space with whoever I'm meeting and allowing them to kind of be in their humanity with me in that moment. And funny things happen, intimate moments happen, and I find that extremely enriching, as well as sometimes just really insightful in whatever I'm dealing with in my life in that moment.
And I think it's really important that, everyone's going to have a different opinion, and you really have to believe in yourself and your capabilities. And, again, work hard, but don't let others define what you can and can't do. I think you really have to have that self-awareness and be true to yourself.
So whether you're in a meeting, you're the only female in the meeting, whether you're in a meeting with a big group of people, whatever it may be, you need your voice to be heard. You have to remember that your point of view is important, will add to the discussion, and you need to speak up and have your voice heard.
Sit at the table. So as women, if there's like a company-wide meeting, for example, and everyone's gathering in the boardroom, as women, we tend to sit up, stand up at the sides. But remember, you were invited to that meeting because your opinion and your thoughts are important, and they want to hear you. So sit at the table, let them hear you.
I find that when I'm preparing for tough conversations or meetings, I like to mentally prepare myself first and really think through what I want to, the point that I'd like to get through. And I also practice it. I practice actually, the questions or the answers. I practice it with my husband, with my friends. And I think the key thing to remember is to be confident in yourself and stand your ground. Confidence is key when you're dealing with men in general that you may feel intimidated by.
A friend told me when I was applying for a very senior role that if you don't apply, then you don't get to criticize the person that gets the role. And that encouraged me to actually move forward and put my application in, and I actually got the role.
And a couple of the gals that I work with were both like, well, Heather, why aren't you going for that job? And it was like that instant moment of like, why am I not going for that job? And if it hadn't been for those two women, I'm not actually sure that I'd be sitting here talking to you as a CEO, because it put a total twist on what I was thinking. And I just think women, and I'm clearly an example of that, we're bad for not thinking that we're ready. And at the end of the day, I think actually we're, in a lot of cases, much more ready than many men are, but we just don't actually think in the same way.